Life is all about experiences and memories. Yeah, so I'm an engineer actually, mechanical engineer. And then I did my MBA. Started out in a marketing role, product management, hardcore sales in ICICI Bank. Did a variety of roles. I did marketing, I did front office, back office, and functions, and actually ended up in finance. From there on, finance became sort of a passion. And now today I'm the CFO at Barclays for Middle East and Africa. There are about 7, 8 locations that I manage sitting out of Dubai. But I've learned and found my career niche which works for me.
So you've just invalidated a lot of the questions that we were going to ask later on.
Really, we have a variety of experiences, but when you have a perspective which comes from business, sales, marketing, you sort of understand where the other stakeholders coming from, and then you're able to put and weave across your thought process in a way that you can appeal to their thoughts as well, and you're actually able to influence decisions because you know where they're coming from. Every Indian should read it to understand how our country evolved, who were the leaders then, what were the challenges, what happened in partition, and why we are the way we are, right? So everybody has the right thought process, but not the full picture. So rather than reacting immediately to anything, if provided there is time, take it away, sleep over it, think calmly, and then come back. That's respect for everybody across the board. Respect for everybody is very, very important.
So firstly, Ram, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of CFOs Not Talking Finance. We'd love to start off with you just giving us a quick introduction about yourself and your career so far.
Yeah, so I'm an engineer actually, mechanical engineer. I passed out in 98 and then I did my MBA, passed out in 2001. Started out in a marketing role, actually did product management for 2, 3 years, then moved on to a role in hardcore sales in ICICI Bank. From there on, moved to City, did a variety of roles. I did marketing, I did front office, back office, and functions, and actually ended up in finance through a rotation sort of a project, right? So, and then from there on, finance became sort of a passion. For the past, whatever, 18, 19 years, I've been in finance. And now today I'm the CFO at Barclays for Middle East and Africa. There are about 7, 8 locations that I manage sitting out of Dubai. And it's been a very rewarding life. It's been one that I've learned through my career, right? Learned along the way. Not that I set out to be a finance person, but I've learned and found my career niche, which works for me.
So you've just invalidated a lot of the questions that we were going to ask later on
Really?
in terms of what can finance learn from other functions, so to speak.
We have a variety of experiences as opposed to a straight jacket accountant, right? So you might see it from your standpoint only or from your own mirror, different kind of glasses. But when you have a perspective which comes from business, sales, marketing, you sort of understand where the other stakeholders coming from, and then you're able to put and weave across your thought process in a way that you can appeal to their thoughts as well, and you're actually able to influence decisions because you know where they're coming from and what you thought of finance when you did that role as well, right? So you have those ideas, and then you can appeal to the right senses and the right perspectives and influence decisions. That's been very instrumental in my growth as well over the years. That's true.
Yeah, and in fact, I've had of course, a fraction of the career duration that you've had, but my trajectory has gone the other way. So I was in KPMG. I am a chartered accountant. I was in finance transformation, and I was in audit before that. And now I've moved to a completely different role where I look after GTM, sales, and I do something completely different. So it's kind of been the opposite for me as opposed to what it was for you. So just after of course hearing about your career growth and how you've changed roles multiple times, what has been the most rewarding business function for you?
So for me, FP&A, while I sit as a CFO, there's a big period in my life where I did FP&A. That is the real function which actually interfaces with everybody in the bank. For me, it's the bank or any institution, right? So you speak to sales, you speak to product, you speak to operations, you speak to front office, you speak to technology, you speak to every function. And then you have to build the narrative. You have to understand what the drivers are for each of the functions. You have to build the narrative and actually steer the organization forward. So that really gave me an insight into how business really works, what are the drivers, and how we can actually add value to somebody because we are actually making a real difference to somebody's work life, pushing business forward. So FP&A for me was a really rewarding experience. And when you understand different businesses and the same thing or same approach which you applied to one business will not work in the other, what really drives, what's important for them, and then actually being a real partner, right?
Mm.
Suggesting ideas, not only calling out risks, actually suggesting ideas and putting out opportunities out there and actually seeing them to fruition. That's extremely rewarding. So FP&A for me has been a real sort of love, and I'm passionate about that as such.
Understood. And like you rightly said, business partnering, it forces you to think like a business owner or, like management. So you're not bound by, the shackles of, okay, I only need to look at what my function considers relevant. You're looking at the big picture.
A very good point that you make, that you think of yourself as the business, right? So even though you might be a finance business partner, you think as the business person and look to drive that forward. So yeah, that's the approach there, right? That's right.
Right. And another sort of icebreaker question that we have for you is, now that you've done so many different roles, what is one role that you think you would be absolutely terrible at?
I can't say terrible, but now I'll be very bad at a very dull, boring job, which is a very routine job. So what I've really thrived on is multitude of experiences, learning every single time. So if you put me in a rote role, which is to produce something on a regular basis with not much of a challenge, it won't really work for me. What really takes for me is the challenge in trying to do something new, in creating something, in moving up to something. It may be a very, very highly priced role, but if it's BAU as such and it's routine operation, that won't excite me. So that I really need that challenge to keep me going.
Correct. And when it comes to your schedule outside of work, is that also BAU, or do you also have to schedule in some new and exciting things every week?
No, no, we as a family do a multitude of things outside of work, right? So we do many things outside of work, and I also have my own passions as well, right? So I am very keen on reading books. I have a routine which is exercising, and I have something. I love gardening, which is a very different thing for a person, for a male person. But I like gardening, and there are different things that I keep doing so that we fit in our life. Is all about experiences and memories. It's not about doing the same thing and chasing money for the sake of it. So you need to build your experiences and memories, and that's what we try to do as a family, and
Hmm.
that's very important for me as well. Yeah.
How nice. So how do you, make time for this, considering you're a CFO and, time is probably a big constraint for you every week. So how do you make sure, you are scheduling in enough things in your work week outside of work? So what's, as an example, what is one thing in your calendar that, you make time for every week, which is not related to work?
So I absolutely make time for exercise. So and I try to get it out of the way nice and early. In fact, I get up very early in the morning, so about 4:30 a.m. in the morning. So I try to get things ticked off before even the workday starts. So uh, just I read this book Atomic Habits just a few months back, and that's a excellent book in the nature of how to form habits, right? In the sense of how you can do incremental changes, how you can build it intentionally into your system, and how you start to see yourself differently. So for me, doing those things intentionally and getting them out of the way and doing them regularly builds them into a system as a habit, and then you get along with everything. So that's a non-negotiable, right? And you don't need to ask permission for somebody else to be doing something in their own time. So but I'm blessed with a very good team, and my leadership is more about empowering people and making them perform, but while it's also keeping the guardrails and giving them direction. So once that is also done, BAU work happens, and you actually have time to do the more creative, the more challenging stuff, like I said before. So you ultimately, it's not about how much time you spend at the job, it's about thinking and how you can improve and add value to the role. It's not about the number of hours you put into your role at all. It is more about how you're able to decision, influence decisions, and actually lift the function as such. So that's my role really. It's not about producing the BAU stuff. So that's that itself ensures that I'm lucky to work for an organization today which values well-being. We
Yeah.
have 2 or 3 days of work from office, and then it's hybrid working, and everybody is able to choose what they want and have a few non-negotiables, even maybe during the day. during the workday, if somebody wants to block out an hour to say, this is my time for myself, I need to go for a walk at that time, or I need to do something differently at that time, that's still available. So given all that is available, there is no reason why one should not make the best use of it. And actually, I've seen that this turned out very well for everybody. It's made people much better versions of themselves. They're able to both balance their life and be their best selves at work and how they're working. So it's worked for me both ways. Yeah.
Very interesting that you said that the more you try to, blend in your day and work feels like it has seeped in through every part of your day, the less productive you become. Unless you have, you've managed to compartmentalize that this is what I'm going to do, this is the extent of what my work day looks like. Unless you make that sort of discipline and that distinction, I think you won't be inspired to be your productive best, right?
That's true. I won't say really compartmentalized, but you find non-negotiables, and it could be that I answer my emails 5:30 in the morning after I'm done with my
Mm-hmm.
exercise at 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
But again, maybe I'm not available between 8 and 9, and I
Yeah.
start later. It could be anything. So it is that you make your non-negotiables, you draw your boundaries, and you make your best selves available to work as well. So it should blend in seamlessly rather than drawing a line saying it starts at 8 and finishes at 5. It could happen at a point of time, but still you find those times for yourself or for what you value to make use and actually deliver on it. So I won't say it won't overlap, but given what work is like today with all the technology and this thing, it can overlap, but you can still find your time to do what you value.
Well said. And within this organization or even your previous organizations, has there been any mentor or a particular manager
So
that you might have looked up to who
over my
shaped
career,
you?
yeah, I had the fortune of working with very highly talented people. Without calling out somebody like a mentor, I have
Mm-hmm.
actually learned from observing and actually learning from certain points and feedback, which have actually made me what I am today. For instance, I worked in an organization where I was in marketing,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually did some significant promotions, which were very visible in the market and highly successful. And we were a two-people team, and my line manager actually told me that in spite of having such a successful campaign, I saw the real twinkle in your eyes was when you had actually done all the analysis of the data and
Mm-hmm.
what you suggested you did, and then that
Yeah.
played out. That gave you the greatest satisfaction, not the promotions itself. And I think you would love numbers. You would be great at analysis. And I was doing marketing then. So at that point, I did not know what to say, but I said, okay, yeah, that's interesting. But if I think back that in a very short period of time, it turned out that I entered the world of numbers and I really got captivated by them. And that gave me a big different kick. So different things you take from different people. Even in my initial days, I was really empowered to go and do something, not ask for directions. If this is your business, how would you go and do it? What would you achieve? So people placing trust in you and empowering you, that is really rewarding. And then if you apply the right judgment, you can succeed very well. So that stayed with me, and that is principally the way I operate as well. Giving everybody the best opportunity to succeed, to actually be curious, ask questions, try to experiment, fail but fail fast, and actually do something instead of just doing things as they were. That's the only way to sort of move on. So mentorship, while not specifically one-on-one on a very continuous basis, I've had very good leaders who have guided me over time. In fact, some people have pointed out saying that this is could be better for you. Why not look at this? So that has shaped my career in a significant way.
Right. So many people and many significant moments with each of them.
Of a instead of an individual person, absolutely.
Right.
That's
Wonderful. Ram, going back to when you were talking about atomic habits, right? I feel like generally I'm not a fan of self-help books, but that is one book which was very different because I think it also described the what and the
true.
how rather than just the why you should do this. And it wasn't as I mean, it was of course meant to be motivating, but it also gave you a good framework. So like that, I mean, that's clearly a book that you appreciate and you enjoyed while you were reading it. But any other book recommendations for the rest of us?
Lots of book recommendations. If you ask me, I love lots of books recommendations. But one thing which really moved me in my life was reading Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl's book, when Viktor
Mm-hmm.
Frankl was in the Nazi concentration camp and how he managed to survive the concentration camp, and what he learned from there and what led to his survival, right? So, what was the purpose? What did he visualize that he thought he would come out of the camp? Where did he find meaning? How did he choose to respond to the same situation? Different people responded differently. They gave up on life, and that freedom is in your hands, right? Freedom is how you choose to believe and achieve. Then, when you look at let's say money, one should read Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, right? Again, we can all be very intelligent, but we can be very poor. You can
Yeah.
have good habits and you can have bad habits. You can earn all the money you want, but not save anything, right?
Mhm.
Our attitude to money. And there is a luck factor involved as well. But even with very little money, janitor could save so much, right? As an
Yeah, that's
example
the
that is
very
there.
first example that he
Yeah,
talks
there's a
about,
very,
which
very,
is
very
quite
simple and straightforward
foundational. Yeah.
example. Yeah. And your attitude, you can have all the money in the world and still lose it. You can win the lottery, people who win the lottery lose all their money, right? End up spending it. So your attitude to money and how do you approach money, how do you save and ensure you have a very stable life? That's a very good book. It's not a self-help book, it's actually a very practical book, right? And then something which has really moved me, Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs, in building things simple, but being have a very clear purpose, vision, and being very tenacious, right, to achieve something, not letting go, staying true to your vision, and actually trying to do something larger than just deliver a product, impact things on a larger scale, that impacting things on a larger scale, making a difference, and really being passionate about something. That also Walter Isaacson's biography of Steve Jobs,
We
and
can also see the product manager in you while you're talking about Apple
absolutely.
and Steve Jobs and how he revolutionized product marketing entirely.
Yeah, actually, finance doesn't need to be any different from product management. Maybe in some ways I approach it like that, right? So, in a sense, I spend more time crafting the narrative, making the presentation than producing information or data because I'm trying to wow the audience and influence decision. So, that bit of marketing stuck on with me for sure. Yeah, that didn't go away. That stuck on for sure. So that's one thing. And then, just for us to understand how our country came together, what happened. William Dalrymple's book Freedom at Midnight is an absolute classic. Every Indian should read it to understand how our country evolved, who were the leaders then, what were the challenges, what happened in partition, and why we are the way we are, right? So it took a Westerner to write it, a Scotsman to write it, but yeah, it's really worthwhile reading. Just by different sort of genres, right? So I really love all of these books.
Actually, that's a book I've always meant to read. I've my cornerstone book when it comes to partition and the origin story of India is actually Ramchandra Guha's India after Gandhi.
Before and after Gandhi,
Yes,
those
yes, yes. And
huge
then he had
volumes.
another book. Yeah, he had another book, Gandhi Before India, which was more about an analysis of Mahatma Gandhi's life and the principles that
I
drove
have
him.
both the books, very
Yeah.
voluminous, but this one
Yes.
is more
Yeah,
storytelling
yeah.
style. It's very
Correct.
voluminous.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
So one thing, Ram, that we want to know across, the multiple roles and functions you've worked in, what is the one thing that helped you manage stakeholders? Because at each time you were the storyteller, or rather, you were representing a different business function. So what is something that you can share as part of insights from having had this journey?
Yeah, so this is a story I tell very often when it comes to stakeholder management or storytelling, right? So we know of the five blind men in the elephant story.
They have to
At least
describe
in my
the.
time it was an elementary school story, so I'm slightly of a different generation. Yeah, so there were five blind men in a
They have to
village, and
basically describe what
they,
they're
they they
seeing,
would
right?
think of the
Yeah.
elephant and they did not know what the elephant was. So people told them what the elephant was, and they could not understand what it was. So it so happened the villagers took the um, five blind men to meet the king who had an elephant in his courtyard, and they only could feel the elephant, feel it by touch, right? So somebody went and felt the trunk, somebody the leg, somebody the body of the elephant, somebody the tail, and somebody pulled the ear. So based on their approach to the elephant and how they felt the elephant. Each one made up their mind as to what the elephant was. Somebody thought it was a rope, somebody thought it was a tree, somebody thought it was a wall, somebody thought it was a fan or something to wave around, and somebody thought it was a big pipe or something like that. Right? So they made up all those assumptions. But then the king came around and told them, all of you are right, but in totality, you're wrong. I have the big picture, and this is how the big picture is, and this is how the elephant looks. And told them that this is how you visualize a full picture. And that's where we come in as storytellers, right? In finance, more in FP&A and overall as CFO, you have the big picture. And you have all stakeholders who are approaching the business from different aspects. How you appeal to each of them, how you are able to influence decision is able to tell them the story in that part and say they are right. This is what this means to you, and we can work with you to get the outcome that you want. But I have to weave everything together to get the big picture. Ultimately, it's a big puzzle, right? So you have all of those pieces, and ultimately you can put it back together as well. So that's a very interesting way to look at storytelling and also understand stakeholders. So each one has a different approach, different way they're seeing the same thing, but they're all seeing the same animal. They're all seeing the same business. So everybody has the right thought process, but not the full picture. So trying to break it down, explain, and then put it back together. That's the beauty of stakeholder management. And that comes about when you've had multitude experiences. You've done,
Hmm.
let's say, a marketing role, you've done an operations role, you've done the finance role, you're on the front office role. So you know, again,
Yeah.
where they're all coming from. And then you're able to explain what the challenge for the firm is and then drive the decision making.
Mm, correct. Another thing that I would want to run by you is they often say that as you climb the corporate ladder and you become, you manage a team of, a few people, and then you're also responsible for their actions and you become accountable, you tend to become a little short-tempered. Do you think that's true? And if not, what is the actionable advice you would give to be able to manage tempers and, stay calm in general?
See, I think different things work for different people as well. Sometimes, and another book I was reading recently, and this is The Courage to Be Disliked, is the Adler Principle, right, by Ishimi. Um, and there it says anger is not is something that we control. Our response is what we want, and we get angry because we want to influence a certain outcome. So if you take that out, if the goal is to be able to get to the answer, you don't need to get angry. You can be calm and you can discuss and drive the outcome. So if you have the goal in mind, the thoughts, you get angry. It's not as if you got angry first and then you did something. You wanted to do something and you get angry because you want to do something. So for me, it's very interesting. I like to be calm and I work best when I'm calm, even under extreme pressure. If I am not calm, I cannot think clearly. So for me, it works in staying ordinarily calm. If I stay calm, I'm able to think, dissect things, and make pressure. That's where I think I really value my early morning time, right? So I sleep over a decision. I don't take the decision that day. If there's a big challenge, big problem, I don't take the decision that day. I mull over it, and next day morning, when I'm able to think much more clearly, I've always found the decision changes. There are so many other viewpoints which come into the picture. So rather than reacting immediately to anything, if provided there is time, take it away, sleep over it, think calmly, and then come back. That could make anybody calm. It could be a solution to say, I take my time. I don't respond right away. I take my time. I think this through and then take my decision later. And always I found this to work.
Interesting, especially what you said about anger is just, an outcome of what you want to do when you want to control a particular situation. That's when anger arises, and it's not a natural byproduct of, reaching a solution or an answer. Understood. And another thing you mentioned was, you are very strict, certain non-negotiables that you have is, for example, waking up early and exercising. So we're gathering that discipline is, of course, a very important value for you. What are the other principles and values that you hold very, very dear?
Yeah, so values are foundational principles, right? So you live by something. You cannot live by what somebody else wants you to do. So you have to be self-aware of what it is that you are and what shortcomings and strengths you have. That is a very important thing. Once you're aware of that, and then you can build your values. And for me, it's health, it's respect, it's integrity, and stewardship, right? So I like to build things with which then other people find useful. Meaning, even if I touch something, I did something really good with that, that somebody says, "Oh, this was done by Ram," and then it's really good. So I take enormous pride in building something which is sustainable, not a shortcut to deliver something. And obviously, given my not just because it's my role as a CFO, integrity is a non-negotiable. Respect for everybody across the board. Respect for everybody is very, very important. That is the only thing we have as a currency. Today, I
Yeah.
could be doing the CFO role. Tomorrow, I might be doing something else, right? and it's people to people respect. That's a non-negotiable, absolute non-negotiable. Health is one which is intrinsic to myself, and I value and I do make efforts to do the right things to ensure that I'm in the good health, right? So over the career, it you can be certain that when you start early in your career, maybe you cannot live all of these to your fullest, right? Over time, as you grow, actually, you start to understand the values better as well, and you're able to live them fully as well, right? Because you understood them, because you're trying to live them, and intentionally you're doing something. And when you live your values, it's far more fulfilling than just doing something which is somebody else told you to do it this way and then you did something. Then there's a lot of dissonance in your thing. So first, be self-aware, know what is important, what your strengths, weaknesses, and how you are, and what things run you, and then have your values, and then look to live your values. And I'm sure it doesn't happen that you can live all your values fully initially itself, because you're still part of an ecosystem. You're one part in the big ecosystem, but over time you'll realize that if be intentional with what you want to get done, you will be able to live them fully, and then it's very rewarding. Then it is not money or anything like that. It is very rewarding in itself.
Correct. So constantly being aware of the higher purpose of what you're doing is what you look forward to at, in every new day,
uh,
every new
how,
work
how
day.
how how do you live your values?
Yeah.
How do you live, be consistent with your values? You cannot
Mm-hmm.
live 100% of them all the time, but how can you be consistent is what matters.
Correct. And Ram, do you work with a lot of Gen Zs? Do you hire Gen Zs? How has your management style changed in response to, what is workable
Interesting
for
one.
them?
Interesting one. I speak to a lot of Gen Zs. I have not worked with many Gen Zs, but I do find it is very different. The Because one, they are aware, and I'm saying they are aware. It's almost like I have to say they're born ready, because they have so much of information available, so much knowledge about everything. But equally so, they don't have the experiences to relate the knowledge to. So that is the gap there. So while something can be a strength, it can be a weakness as well. So because you're aware and you build your thoughts only with the awareness of whatever information that you have, but not with the experience that you had. So you need to go through the experiences to really validate what you think and build as a thought. So that's my simple advice to the Gen Zs, that look to have more and more experiences that you learn from, rather than just go with all the information that's available today in the external world, which tells you that this is how it should be. So you can't go with a presupposed approach in any organization or say this is how it will work out. You will have to live it out, and you'll have to bring your best selves to the table and achieve it. So managing them is slightly different thing. It is, you actually, while they are more self starters and more aware, you need to also be very clear in the outcomes that you expect, very specific, so that there is no misunderstanding. It is not that it is understood, that some message is clearly understood just because he said it, and it's that learning has to be accelerated. And even as they had all the information before, the learning curve will also be steep for them, because so much is available, because of all the technology advances as well. They have to quickly pick up multiple skills to be relevant in the workforce. So yeah, that it is not a challenge, it's interesting, but obviously, yeah, I'm slightly different generation, so learning to
Yeah,
them, yeah.
correct, correct. So we have to tweak our methods of working to be able to accommodate their viewpoints. Yes, thank you, Mr. Ram. You've been an absolutely wonderful guest, and we always like to end the podcast with a slightly weird question. If you could host a dinner party for around 3 to 5 people, who will you invite? Firstly, they can be anybody, people alive, dead, from history, whoever you want. And what will you serve them? What food will you serve?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about what food I will serve them, but I was in Serbia recently, and I was really moved by all the inventions that Nikola Tesla did. So Nikola Tesla would make for a great dinner guest with all the eccentric ideas and all the things that he
Then I'm
came
sure
up.
you wouldn't invite Edison.
No, absolutely not. That's a good one. That's a good catch. Yeah, that's a very good catch. Right. So that's Nikola Tesla, and obviously Steve Jobs, without a doubt, and Michael Jordan. Yeah,
Wow. Okay.
what a
Nice.
sportsman! What a sportsman! What focus and what achievements! Yeah. So
Wonderful.
those are the
And
three people I really look up to. Yeah.
wonderful. And any ideas on what food all three of them would probably like?
I have no clue about what
Maybe
food they
maybe
would like.
something from your garden.
Yeah, maybe something from fresh produce from the garden if
Fresh
it works
produce
for
from
them.
the garden. You can make like a nice gift basket of sorts.
Yeah, it could work. But
Yeah,
interesting. It's very interesting
yeah,
question. Thank you.
yeah. All right, Ram. Thank you so much. I hope you had a good time, and I hope
No, no,
you know
it's
the
really
interview
nice to
is
chat and it's a nice,
yes,
friendly, nice. Thanks for that. Yeah.
wonderful. Yes, thank you so much
Okay.
for being on the show, Ram. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.